Well, that in itself becomes situational, right? Adapting to the situation
That's right.
that you're in. A couple of the other terms that you mentioned there, paradoxical leadership, and also ethical leadership. Can we unpack a little bit about what those two are as well? I'm just
Yeah,
from a curiosity
absolutely.
perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'll start with ethical leadership because that's actually been done quite a lot in academic literature. And it has two different components. Ethical leaders embody both being a moral person as well as being a moral manager. The moral person aspect is more specific to, are they a good person? Are they trustworthy? Do they do the right things in a day to day, maybe even in their personal life type behavior? The moral manager is more about their approach to motivating and ensuring their people do what they need them to do. So, for example, they're very much focused on the process and not the product per se. So, maybe the antithesis would be somebody that is a bottom line mentality leader. Just get it done by all means necessary, which can be problematic because a lot of times the final results are only partially dependent upon your behaviors, right? Look at the COVID scenario. You're really not in control of the social economic environment that you're embedded within. So what makes more sense as a leader, as an ethical leader, is to say, as long as you do the right things, you focus on the process and you genuinely go into it with good intent, then sure, you're going to be rewarded and you're going to, in my eyes, be doing the right thing as a follower. Right? So ethical leaders have a little bit of a different view on what exactly should be done. It's about the process, not necessarily about the product. And that can be motivational, right? Wouldn't you prefer to work for somebody that recognizes the context, recognizes that you are still doing the right things and you're doing your best regardless of whatever happens in the long-term outcome? So that can be important. Now, mindful leadership is a little bit newer, at least in the academic literature. So mindfulness, and we can talk about different states of consciousness and get into that later. But mindfulness is really just present moment attention and awareness. You can look at it as a state, but you could also look at it as a trait. And so the research is saying those leaders that are higher on traits mindfulness, they have a higher tendency to be present in the moment. They then have certain types of behaviors that they're going to engage in. And the research to date is suggesting things like they're more empathetic. They're more likely to engage in perspective taking. They're more likely to make systematic decisions as opposed to intuitive decisions that might be overgeneralized or have some degree of cognitive bias or something like that. So it's still in its infancy from a research perspective, but there's tons of books on it and about it. So it's kind of to be determined on what exactly does that mean? Because usually leadership comes from a behavioral perspective, but mindfulness is a state or a trait. So what exactly does that mean when manifested in terms of behaviors?